9 years working cartels on the border, and I'd finally made it back alive. The second I opened the front door, my wife, Claire, was there, smiling as she rushed to greet me, her eyes glistening. "Ethan, you're home." Her voice had a tremor I could barely detect. I nodded, shrugging off my jacket, my eyes scanning the home that was at once so familiar and yet so strange. 9 years, and almost nothing about the layout had changed, except for the orchid on the windowsill, which was fuller and brighter than when I'd left. Claire made a table full of my favorites: barbecue ribs, mac and cheese, crispy fried chicken. All the comfort food I'd been dreaming of. At the dinner table, she kept putting food on my plate, her smile as gentle as a calm lake. "You're so thin, honey. You have to eat more." It must have been so hard out there. I ate quietly, soaking in the long-lost taste of home. Everything was just as perfect as I'd imagined our reunion would be. But as Claire smiled and served me another rib, I noticed the index finger of her right hand. It was tapping against the table, seemingly at random. Top, 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 top. It wasn't random. It was a perfectly steady, deliberate rhythm. It was Morse code. My training kicked in, every nerve in my body screaming, my blood freezing in my veins. I didn't look up. I kept eating, but under the table, my fingers were silently deciphering her message. "R-U-N, run. HLUSCHASDMBUGS. House is 10 bugs." My heart dropped like a stone. The motion of my chewing froze. Slowly, I lifted my head and looked at her. Claire was still smiling that gentle smile, still saying, "Eat up, honey. I know these are your favorites, so I made extra." But her eyes, they were no longer filled with simple joy. Deep inside those beautiful eyes was a raw, suffocating fear. An urgent plea. She was desperately signaling me to get out. I forced myself to swallow the food in my mouth, to push down the tidal wave of panic rising in my chest. I can't lose my cool. 9 years undercover had forged my emotions into steel. The greater the danger, the calmer you have to be. I couldn't afford to waste her warning. I put down my fork and smiled back, my tone easy and light. "You're right. Nothing beats a home-cooked meal. Man, that drive was long, though. I'm exhausted, feel grimy. I'm gonna go take a shower, get changed." A flash of urgency crossed Claire's eyes, but she masked it in an instant. She nodded, her smile a little strained. "Of course, go ahead. The water heater's on." I stood up and walked toward the bathroom. Every step was steady, but every muscle in my body was on high alert. The moment I closed the bathroom door, I didn't turn on the shower. My first move was to sweep the small space for anything out of the ordinary. Behind the mirror, the ceiling vent, inside the toilet tank. I checked every possible hiding spot. Sure enough, tucked into a tiny, hidden recess under the sink, my fingers brushed against a cold, matchbox-sized object. I didn't pull it out. I just traced its outline with my fingertips. The newest model of a military-grade listening device. Effective range of 500 yards, sensitive enough to pick up a heartbeat. A cold sweat broke out across my back. This wasn't ordinary surveillance. This was professional, lethal. Who the hell was behind this? Was my cover blown? Or was someone controlling Claire? I turned on the shower, the roar of the water instantly filling the room, providing a temporary shield against the listening devices. Leaning against the cold tile, my mind raced. 10 bugs. Claire said 10. That meant the entire house was wired. There were no blind spots. Every word I said, every move I made, was being monitored. Should I run? No. If I leave, what happens to Claire? If they were able to rig my house like this, it meant they had complete control over her. The second I ran, she'd be dead. I couldn't leave. Not only could I not leave, but I had to pretend that I knew nothing. I had to stay, find these people, and drag them out of the shadows. I took a quick shower, changing into the clean sleepwear Claire had laid out for me. When I walked out of the bathroom, my face was calm again, relaxed even. Claire had already cleared the table. She was sitting on the sofa, watching some mindless reality TV show, laughing. But I knew she was acting, performing for the unseen eyes and ears. I walked over and sat down next to her. I picked up an apple and a small knife and began to peel it in a long, continuous spiral. "Claire," I said, my voice soft, gentle. "It must have been so hard for you these last few years." She turned to look at me, her eyes welling up again. "It wasn't. As long as you came home safe." She paused, then lowered her voice, almost to a whisper, like a lover sharing a secret. It's just, my dad hasn't been feeling well lately. He's been asking about us. Tomorrow, can you come with me to my parents' place to see him? The knife in my hand stopped moving. Her Morse code message hadn't said anything about visiting her parents. This was new information. I looked at her, and her eyes were filled with a silent, desperate plea. I understood. Her parents' place wasn't her actual parents' place. It was a code only the two of us knew. It was the emergency rendezvous point I had set up with her before I left. An absolute safe house. I handed her the peeled apple, the skin a perfect, unbroken coil. Of course, I said with a smile. First thing tomorrow, we'll go see your dad. 02 the next day, we were up at the crack of dawn. We moved around each other like any normal couple, brushing our teeth, making breakfast. She fixed my tie. I smoothed down her hair. Before we left, she wrapped her arm around mine, resting her head on my shoulder. Ethan, I'm a little scared. Her voice was tiny, and the tremor was real. I knew she wasn't afraid of seeing her parents. She was afraid of what we were about to do. I patted her hand and whispered in her ear, "Don't be. I'm here." I said it for her and for the people listening in. I needed them to think I was just a husband back after 9 years, completely devoted to my wife. We took the old family car, a 10-year-old Ford Fusion. Before getting in, I did a routine check. Nothing under the car. No new bugs inside. It seemed they thought the 10 bugs in the house were enough to keep me under their thumb. The car pulled slowly out of our neighborhood. In the rearview mirror, I saw a black Buick falling behind us, keeping a careful distance. A cold smile touched my lips. Right on cue. Claire saw it too. Her body went rigid. "Don't look back. Don't even glance at it," I said quietly, turning on the car radio. Upbeat pop music filled the car, a flimsy mask for our racing hearts. "Hold on," I told Claire. At the next intersection, the light was green. 3 seconds left. I didn't slow down. I slammed my foot on the gas. The Fusion shot through the intersection just as the light turned red. The black Buick was stuck, trapped behind a wall of cross-traffic. "Oh my God," Claire gasped. We lost them." "Not yet," I said, my eyes glued to the rearview mirror. "A professional tail uses more than one car. They'll cut us off from another direction any second." Sure enough, less than 5 minutes later, a silver Honda appeared behind us. Claire's face went pale again. "Easy." I soothed her, my mind mapping out a route. I couldn't go directly to the safe house. That would be too obvious, a dead giveaway that I knew I was being followed. I had to go somewhere else first. Somewhere to mislead them, a place where we could temporarily shake the surveillance. I wrenched the steering wheel, and the car swerved onto a side road. "Where are we going?" Claire asked, her voice tight with anxiety. "To your parents' place," I said. "Your real parents' place." Claire stared at me, stunned. 20 minutes later, we pulled up in front of her parents' apartment building. I got out with Claire, carrying a bag of fruit and some vitamins I prepared. I could feel them, the hidden eyes watching our every move. That's exactly what I wanted. I wanted them to see us acting like a normal couple, just visiting family. My in-laws were shocked and overjoyed to see me. They pulled me inside, bombarding me with questions. Claire played along, but her face remained pale. I made an excuse to use the restroom. The moment the door was closed, I pulled out a phone. It was a burner I'd bought at a gas station on my way home yesterday. New SIM, new number. I didn't make a call. I typed out a quick text. "Plan A is a go. Target has appeared. Requesting support." I sent it to an encrypted number. 3 seconds later, a reply came back. One word. "Confirmed." I deleted everything and walked out of the bathroom. We stayed at my in-laws for the entire morning. We ate lunch, chatted, watched TV. It was the perfect picture of a normal family gathering. Until 2 in the afternoon. I turned to my father-in-law. "Dad, I'm going to take Claire to the mall, buy her some new clothes." He smiled and nodded. Go. You need to make it up to her." We left again. The silver Honda was still parked outside the complex. The moment we pulled out, it started up and followed us. I drove to the busiest mall in the city. I parked in the underground garage. Then, I took Claire's hand and led her into the swarming crowd of shoppers. "Stay with me," I told her. We didn't go to any clothing stores. We went straight to the 5th-floor movie theater. I bought 2 tickets to the first available showing. It was a new Hollywood blockbuster, a packed house. We got our tickets checked and found our seats in the dark theater. I could feel at least 2 people following us inside, sitting a few rows behind us. I didn't turn around. I just handed the popcorn to Claire. The movie started. The sound was deafening. As everyone's attention was glued to the screen, I leaned close to Claire's ear. In 3 minutes, there's a huge explosion scene. The lights are going to flash like crazy. The second I pull you, we go out the emergency exit on the left. Claire nodded nervously, her palms slick with sweat. I squeezed her hand. It was ice cold. Time ticked by, second by agonizing second. On the screen, the hero was disarming a time bomb. 3, 2, 1, boom. A massive explosion rocked the theater's sound system, and the house lights strobed wildly with the on-screen chaos. Now, I yanked Claire to her feet. We crouched low, darting like shadows toward the emergency exit. We pushed the door open and plunged into the dark stairwell. Behind us, we heard shouts of surprise and the frantic thud of footsteps. They had realized what happened, but it was too late. 03, the emergency stairwell, was long and dark. I pulled Claire with me, racing down to the second sublevel. This was the mall's loading dock, the air thick with the smell of damp cardboard. This way, I hissed, pulling her behind a stack of discarded boxes. Rapid footsteps clattered down the stairs, getting closer. It was the 2 men from the theater. Claire held her breath, her fingers digging into my arm. I put a finger to my lips, signaling for her to stay silent. 2 men in jackets burst onto the landing, scanning the area. Where'd they go? Damn it, we lost them. Split up. They can't have gotten far. One of the men started walking toward our hiding spot. Closer, closer. I pulled a pen from my back pocket. It was the only weapon I had. Just as the man was about to reach our corner, his radio crackled to life. Team B to base. Target exited through the north entrance. Got into a taxi. The man froze, then cursed. Shit, a decoy. He immediately turned and ran with his partner toward the north side of the mall. Their footsteps faded into the distance. I let out a slow breath. That message was for my people. Plan A. Create a diversion. My team would create the illusion that we had already escaped, buying us precious time. After waiting another 5 minutes to be safe, I pulled Claire out from behind the boxes. Are we safe now? She asked, her voice trembling. For now. I led her toward another exit in the loading bay. A black Audi was already there, waiting silently. The window rolled down, and the driver nodded at me. It was my contact, codename K. We climbed in quickly. The car slipped silently into the night. Where to? Kay asked. West End, I said. 37, Oakhaven Lane. That was the parents' house Claire and I had agreed on. A safe house I'd bought under a fake identity 9 years ago. In the car, Claire's composure finally shattered. She hugged her knees, her body shaking uncontrollably. Ethan, I was so scared. Those men, they're dangerous. I took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders, pulling her into my arms. It's okay. Tell me everything. When did they first approach you? Claire looked up, her eyes filled with tears. 6 months ago, a man named Ryan Carter found me. Ryan Carter? The name rang a bell, somewhere in the back of my mind. He said he was an old friend of yours. He told me you were on a deep cover assignment, that you'd run into some trouble and needed his help to watch over me. I didn't believe him at first, but he had old pictures of you from before. He even knew that my barbecue ribs were your favorite. My blood ran cold. Ryan Carter. I remembered him. He was in my class at the police academy. We weren't close. We lost touch completely after graduation. How could he know so much about my life? What happened then? I pressed. He started coming by the house, helping me fix a leaky pipe, change a light bulb, acting like a concerned big brother. Until a month ago, Claire's voice started to tremble. A month ago, he suddenly told me that you might not make it back from this assignment. He said the department had already written you off, presumed dead. He told me he had a way to save you, but I had to cooperate. I was frantic. I begged him to help you. And then he brought his people over and installed all those bugs. He said it was to protect me and to gather evidence that could save you. He told me that when you got back, I couldn't act like anything was wrong. I had to follow his instructions perfectly. Otherwise, we'd both end up dead. Listening to her story, my fists clenched tighter and tighter. Bastard. This Ryan Carter character, his entire story was a lie. He exploited Claire's love and fear for me, turning her into his puppet, protecting her, saving me. He installed those bugs for one reason, and one reason only. What did he want from me? The intelligence I'd gathered over 9 years undercover? Or something else? The car soon arrived at 37 Oakhaven Lane. It was a plain, older brick house. The safe house was on the second floor. We went inside. The place was clean. Someone had clearly been maintaining it. Kate did a full sweep, confirming there were no listening devices before giving me a nod. "It's clean, boss. I'll be outside. Call if you need anything." He closed the door, leaving Claire and me alone. I poured her a glass of hot water. "Do you remember if Ryan Carter left anything with you? Or if he asked you to hold on to something?" Claire held the glass, her mind racing. Suddenly, her eyes lit up with recognition. "Yes. He said there was something important, something crucial to saving you. He told me to hide it, and to give it to you personally when you came back." She hurried into the bedroom. A moment later, she returned with a small jewelry box. She opened it. Inside, there was no jewelry, just a single, plain-looking cufflink. I took the cufflink from the box. It was cool to the touch and surprisingly heavy. Not a common metal. I held it in my palm, examining it closely. The design was old, and it was engraved with a faded crest. A coiled scorpion. The moment I saw that crest, my vision narrowed. The scorpion, the symbol of the largest drug cartel on the border, La Sombra. The shadow, the very organization I had spent 9 years of my life trying to dismantle. Ryan Carter, a Houston cop. How did he have something that belonged to La Sombra? And, judging by the wear, this was something someone wore for years. This was no mere token. Using my fingernail, I found a tiny seam along the edge of the cufflink and pried it open. Click! The back popped open, revealing a micro-sized slot. Inside was a memory card, smaller than a pinky nail. My heart skipped a beat. This was it. This was Ryan Carter's real objective. He didn't want to listen to my conversations or get intel from me directly. His real plan was to have me deliver this memory card to a specific person or place. He was using me as the world's most secure courier. A decorated agent, fresh from a 9-year deep cover operation. A hero. No one would ever suspect me. And Claire, she was the leverage he was using to control me. A brilliant, ruthless 2-for-1 scheme. "What is that?" Claire asked softly, staring at the tiny card in my hand. "A ticking time bomb." I snapped the cufflink shut and put it back in the box. "We can't do anything with this right now." "Did Ryan tell you what to do after you gave this to me?" Claire shook her head. "He just said he would contact me after you got home. He said he had ways of knowing everything we were doing. So, he must know the bugs in the house are useless by now. Do you think he'll go after my parents?" Claire couldn't finish the sentence. It was my biggest fear. A man like Ryan Carter is vicious and has no limits. Once he realized he'd lost control of us, his first instinct would be to go after our weak spots. And our weak spots were our parents. I immediately took out the burner phone and called Kay. "Kay, use every resource we have. I need full protection on my in-laws and my parents. Now, maximum level, 24/7 coverage. Nobody gets close. Also, run a background check on Ryan Carter. HBD. Graduated from the academy about 10 years ago, 35 or 36 years old. I want his entire file, yesterday." On the other end, Kay's response was crisp. "Got it." After hanging up, I looked at Claire's pale face, my heart aching with guilt. "I'm so sorry. I dragged you into this. If it weren't for me, she would be living a peaceful, normal life." But Claire shook her head, taking my hand in hers. "Don't say that. We're married. I just hate myself for being so stupid, for trusting that monster so easily." I pulled her into a tight embrace. "You're not stupid. You just love me too much." Outside, the night grew darker. Sleep was not an option. I sat on the living room sofa, turning the cold cufflink over and over in my hand. My mind was piecing together the puzzle. Ryan Carter had to be working for La Sombra. He was most likely a mole they had planted inside HBD years ago. What was on this memory card? A list of La Sombra's distribution networks in the U.S.? A list of corrupt officials on their payroll? Whatever it was explosive enough to cause a major earthquake. And I, Ethan Hayes, the returning hero, was now standing at the epicenter. Ryan Carter would be in touch soon. He would use my family's safety to force me to cooperate. I couldn't just sit here and wait. I had to go on the offensive. Just before dawn, Kay called. "Boss, your families are secure. We have teams in place." And I got the file on Ryan Carter. This guy's record is squeaky clean. It's almost scary. Graduated the academy, joined HPD, and has been climbing the ladder ever since. He's a detective in the financial crimes unit now. Everyone says he's a hard charger, one of the best. There's not a single red flag in his entire file. I let out a cold laugh. The cleaner the record, the bigger the problem. Where is he now? I asked. Left the city late last night. He was heading south toward Galveston. Galveston. My heart sank again. Galveston, a major port city on the Gulf Coast. One of La Sombra's most important hubs for smuggling drugs into the country. What was he doing there? Meeting with cartel members? Or did he already know the memory card was with me, and he was making a run for it? No. If he were running, he wouldn't go alone. He had another move to make. Boss, what do we do now? Should we report this up the chain? Kay asked. I thought for a moment. Not yet. We don't know who else might be involved inside the department. Reporting it now could tip them off. Kay, I want you to take a team to Galveston. I want eyes on Ryan Carter 24/7. Surveillance only. Don't make a move. I want to know who he meets, what he does, everything. Yes, sir. After I hung up, a daring plan began to form in my mind. So, Ryan Carter, you want to play a game? I'll play. You want me to be your courier? Fine. I'll be your courier. Let's see just how deep this rabbit hole goes. 05 Claire made breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast. After the terror of yesterday, she clearly hadn't recovered. There were dark circles under her eyes. After you eat, I want you to stay here and rest. Don't go anywhere, I told her. Kay's people will be outside. This place is completely secure. Claire nodded, her eyes full of worry. What about you? Are you going out there again? Into the danger? I smiled and stroked her hair. Don't worry. I'm not the same reckless kid I was 9 years ago. This time, I'm the hunter, and they're the prey. After breakfast, I changed into a fresh set of clothes. I placed the cufflink carefully into an inside pocket. Then, I walked out of the safe house. I didn't take a car. I walked under the morning sun like any other person. I didn't go anywhere in particular, just wander the streets. I was waiting for Ryan Carter's call. He had a call. He needed to confirm that his courier was still under his control. Sure enough, at 10 in the morning, a block number came through. I answered. Hello. A distorted, raspy voice came from the other end. Agent Hayes. 9 years is a long time. Welcome back. It was him, Ryan. Ryan? I said, feigning surprise. Why are you calling from this number? Yeah, let's skip the pleasantries. Agent Hayes, I trust your wife has given you the gift? Gift? I don't know what you're talking about. I continued to play dumb. The voice on the other end turned cold. Ethan, don't play games with me. I know you two gave my men the slip yesterday. I suggest you don't get any clever ideas. Your parents and your in-laws, they're enjoying a nice walk in the park right now, aren't they? Tell me, what do you think would happen if a truck suddenly lost control and jumped the curb? A naked threat. My stomach clenched, but my voice remained steady. What do you want from me? It's simple. Bring the package to Galveston. When you get here, I'll tell you what to do next. And remember, come alone. If you call the cops or try any funny business, you know what will happen. The line went dead. I stood on the sidewalk, holding the phone, not moving for a long time. The fish had taken the bait. He wanted me in Galveston, just as I'd hoped. I immediately sent a text to Kay. Target confirmed, Galveston. I'm on my way. Proceed as planned. Then I deleted the message, hailed a cab, and went straight to the train station. I bought a ticket for the next train to Galveston. Check-in, security, waiting at the gate. Everything I did was the picture of a man cornered, forced to do whatever it took to save his family. I knew Ryan had eyes on me. Even here, I had to make them believe I had surrendered. 4 hours later, the train pulled into Galveston. As I stepped out of the station, a wave of hot, salty air hit my face. My phone rang again. Same blocked number. Go to the South Side Pier. And don't even think about taking a cop car. Another short, sharp command before he hung up. I smirked, walked out of the station, and got into a taxi. Southside Pier, please. The taxi moved through the city, the scenery flying past my window. Galveston. I'd spent 3 years here. To get close to La Sombra, I'd worked as a longshoreman on these piers, driven an unlicensed cab, even fought in underground fights. I knew every street, every alley, every corner of this city. For Ryan Carter to choose this as our meeting place, He had made a fatal mistake. This was my home turf. The taxi soon arrived at the South Side Pier. It was the largest cargo pier in Galveston, filled with mountains of shipping containers. The sun was setting, and the dock workers had all gone home. The place was vast and eerily quiet. I got out of the taxi and, following his instructions, walked alone toward the far end of the pier. The sea breeze whipped dust across the pavement. The atmosphere grew heavy, oppressive. I stopped in front of Warehouse 3, and my phone rang again. Go inside. There's a new phone on the table in there. Use that phone to contact me. I pushed open the heavy, rusted door of the warehouse. The overwhelming stench of fish hit me. The warehouse was dark, with only a few rays of the setting sun slanting through the high windows. In the center of the vast space, there was a single, dilapidated table, and on it, a black burner phone sat waiting. 06, I stepped into the warehouse. Behind me, the heavy iron door creaked shut. The space plunged into near-total darkness. I didn't panic. I hugged the wall, letting my eyes adjust. Soon, the shadows resolved into shapes. The warehouse was massive, cluttered with fishing nets and old equipment. Beneath the smell of fish, there was the faint scent of motor oil. I walked slowly toward the table. I picked up the burner phone. It was a simple, lightweight flip phone, the kind that could only make calls and send texts. I powered it on. The screen lit up, showing a full signal. The moment I held it, the phone vibrated. The screen read, unknown number. I flipped it open. Agent Hayes. Got the phone. It was Ryan's distorted voice. I have it. Good. Now, take the battery out of your old phone and drop it in that bucket of water to your left. I did as he said. I took the burner phone I'd bought, removed the battery, and tossed both into a nearby barrel filled with black, stagnant water. Excellent. Ryan's voice sounded pleased. Now, take out the gift and put it on the table. I reached into my pocket, took out the jewelry box, opened it, and placed the scorpion cufflink on the wooden surface. Ryan, you see the package. I'm here. Now let my family go. My voice was laced with suppressed rage and anxiety. Heh, not so fast, Agent Hayes, he chuckled. We have to verify the merchandise, don't we? Stay right where you are. Don't move. Just as he said that, a figure emerged from the deepest shadows of the warehouse. He was tall, wearing a black hoodie pulled low over his face. He walked straight to the table, picked up the cufflink, and examined it with a small flashlight. Then, he pulled out a portable card reader. He inserted the micro-memory card. The reader was connected to a tablet. The screen quickly showed that the card had been read successfully. The man scrolled through the contents, then nodded. He picked up the burner phone and showed it to me. The package is good, he grunted. His voice was rough, with a thick local accent. It wasn't Ryan Carter. This was one of his men, or more likely, one of Las Sombras. Now, can you let my family go? I demanded again. The man didn't answer me. He spoke into the phone. Ryan, it's the real deal. The line was silent for a few seconds. Then, Ryan laughed. Ethan, you really are as naive as ever. Let them go. Do you really think that's going to happen? A living hero, a decorated DEA agent. You're too much of a liability for me. Only a dead man can keep a secret forever. My heart plummeted. Of course. From the very beginning, he never intended for me to walk out of here alive. Ryan, you son of a bitch. I roared into the darkness. You think you can get away with this? Ha ha ha. Ryan's laughter was manic, unhinged. Get away with it? Do you have any proof? Who's going to believe that a model detective is a mole for the cartel? But you, Ethan? A man who's been missing for 9 years? Who knows if you returned during that time? Once you're dead, I can spin any story I want. I can say that you stole the intel, that you were trying to sell it to the cartel. And I, Ryan Carter, was the hero who took down a dirty agent to recover state secrets. Who do you think they'll believe? It was a vicious, airtight plan. He was going to pin everything on me. Do it. Ryan's voice turned cold and cruel. Make it clean. The man in the hoodie hung up the phone. He slowly pulled a long, gleaming knife from his belt. He started walking toward me, one step at a time. At the same time, from all corners of the warehouse, 4 more men emerged from the shadows. They were all armed. Lead pipes, machetes. They formed a circle around me, cutting off any chance of escape. The man with the knife grinned, flexing his wrist. Sorry, Agent Hayes. Shouldn't have known so much. He lunged, a predator closing in for the kill. The knife aimed straight for my heart. I didn't move. I just watched him come. And just as the tip of his blade was about to pierce my chest, a cold smile spread across my face. Really, I was about to say the same thing to you. Before the words had even left my lips, a single, sharp sound cut through the silence of the warehouse. The man with the knife froze mid-lunge. A small, dark hole had appeared in the center of his forehead. The menacing grin was still plastered on his face, but his body went limp, collapsing to the ground like a puppet with its strings cut. Everyone in the warehouse froze. They stared in horror, not at me, but at something behind me. I slowly turned around. The massive, sealed iron door of the warehouse was now wide open, and standing in the doorway was a single figure. K. In his hand was a pistol fitted with a suppressor. A thin wisp of smoke curled from the barrel, and behind him, dozens of heavily armed SWAT officers swarmed into the warehouse from all directions. The black muzzles of their rifles instantly locked onto every remaining man in the building. "Don't move! Police! Drop your weapons!" The thugs' faces turned ashen. The pipes and machetes in their hands clattered to the concrete floor. They never saw it coming. The hunter had become the hunted. 07, the SWAT team, moved with practiced efficiency, cuffing everyone in the warehouse. The tablet and the cufflink were sealed in evidence bags. Kay walked over to me, handing me a bulletproof vest. "You okay, boss?" I shook my head, pulling the vest on. "Where's Ryan Carter?" I asked. "The fish is in the net. Time to pull it close, right?" Kay's face split into a grin. "Don't you worry, boss. We've had 3 different teams tailing him since he got to Galveston. He thinks he's a ghost, but we've been watching his every move. Right now, he's on a derelict fishing boat less than 3 miles from here, probably still waiting for his good news." My eyes turned to ice. "Tell the team to move in. We're making the arrest. I want to have a little reunion with my old classmate." "Yes, sir." 15 minutes later, on the other side of the port, on a rusty, decrepit fishing boat, Ryan Carter was pacing anxiously. He kept checking his phone, waiting for a message. The operation at the warehouse should have been over by now. Why hadn't anyone contacted him? A sense of dread began to creep up his spine. Just then, his phone rang. A blocked number. He hesitated for a second, then answered. "Hello, Ryan." The voice on the other end was one he knew well and one he now feared. It was Ethan. The color drained from Ryan's face. "Hey, Ethan, how are you?" Surprised, I was standing on the dock below the fishing boat, watching the panic on his face, my voice cold as steel. "Surprised that I'm not dead? Or surprised that your perfect little plan fell apart?" Ryan followed the sound of my voice and looked down at the dock. When he saw me and the dark rifle muzzles of the officers behind me, he completely unraveled. He knew it was over. "Stay back," he screamed, pulling a pistol from his waistband and pressing it to his temple. "One more step, and I'll kill myself." The surrounding officers immediately tensed, taking cover. "Don't shoot. Hold your fire," the team leader commanded, but I motioned for them to stand down. I walked alone up the gangplank onto the fishing boat. "Ryan, you think dying makes it all go away?" My voice was calm, but every word was a hammer blow. "If you die a guilty man. Everything you've done for the last decade will be dug up. You think your wife and kid, the ones you have stashed away overseas, are going to be safe. Do you think La Sombra will protect them? Once you're no longer useful, what value do they have for the cartel?" The hand holding the gun began to shake violently. His family, his only weakness. You're lying. I don't have a family overseas. Don't you?" I took a photo from my pocket and tossed it onto the deck in front of him. The photo showed a beautiful woman and a young boy, maybe 7 or 8, playing on a beach in front of a luxurious villa. It was something Kay's team had dug up. "Your wife, Jennifer Carter, left the country 3 years ago under the guise of an investment visa. Your son, Alex Carter, currently attending one of the best private schools in the country. Every year, you wire them a substantial amount of money through a network of shell corporations. Money you earned by betraying your badge, your partners, your country." With every word I spoke, Ryan's face grew paler. Finally, all the blood had drained from it. Don't touch them. They're innocent." His defenses had crumbled. Clang. The gun fell from his hand, clattering on the deck. He collapsed to his knees as if all the strength had been sucked out of him. The SWAT team swarmed the boat, pinning him to the deck. The cold steel of handcuffs snapped around the wrists he was once so proud of. I walked up to him, looking down at the broken man on the ground. You were wrong about everything, Ryan. The arm of the law is long. There's no escape. You thought your plan was perfect, but the moment you chose to betray your oath, you had already lost. In the interrogation room, under the harsh white light, Ryan Carter sat, a hollowed-out shell of a man. He had given up all resistance and confessed to everything. It turned out he'd been recruited by La Sombra back at the academy when his family fell into massive gambling debt. They paid his debts, and in return, he became their man on the inside. For years, he had fed them classified information from inside HBD. He helped them evade capture time and time again. The memory card contained a list of La Sombra's new money laundering channels and the locations of several key lieutenants. It was the result of an internal power struggle within the cartel. One of the bosses wanted to use the police to eliminate his rivals. So, they chose Ryan Carter. And they used me, the returning hero, as the courier least likely to arouse suspicion. It was a perfect plan, except for one thing they didn't count on. They underestimated how well a husband knows his wife. They underestimated the instincts of an undercover agent who had survived 9 years in hell. And most of all, they underestimated the resolve of American law enforcement to hunt down corruption and crime, no matter where it hides. 08 The fallout from the case was complex and classified. Ryan Carter and the extensive network he was a part of were dismantled. Using the intelligence from the memory card, we launched a joint operation with federal and border patrol agencies, codenamed Scorpion's Tail. La Sombra suffered a devastating blow, one they wouldn't recover from for years. All of this happened on a battlefield no one sees. And I, after completing all my debriefings and reports, was finally granted the vacation I had earned 9 years ago. The day I was officially reinstated, the chief of police himself pinned the Medal of Valor to my chest. My colleagues all stood and saluted me. In that moment, with the sun streaming through the window, I felt it. The 9 years of darkness and solitude, it was all worth it. I didn't stay at the office long. There was someone I needed to see. I drove back to the safe house, the one that had become a temporary home for Claire and me. I opened the door. The scent of cooking filled the air. Claire was in the kitchen, wearing an apron, busy at the stove. She heard the door open and turned around. She saw me. She saw the gleaming metal on my chest. She smiled, and then the tears started to fall. I walked over to her and wrapped my arms around her from behind. "I'm back," I said. "Welcome home," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry I made you worry again." "You're an idiot," she said, turning around to face me, wiping a tear from my cheek. "I've never felt safer than I do right now." She was right. Safe. There were no more cold, listening devices in our home. No more dangerous eyes watching from the shadows. We could be like any other couple in the world. We could hug, kiss, and talk about nothing at all, and no one else would be listening. We ate that meal slowly, peacefully. There was no heart-pounding Morse code, no conversations with hidden meanings. Just a simple home-cooked meal and the warm, loving looks we shared. After dinner, I insisted on doing the dishes. Claire leaned against the kitchen doorway, just watching me. "Ethan, you're not going to leave again, are you?" My hands paused in the soapy water. I turned and saw the fear in her eyes. I walked over to her, dried my hands, and cupped her face. "I'm not leaving. My mission is over. From now on, my only mission is you. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Claire's eyes welled up again. She stood on her toes and kissed me. It was a light, gentle kiss, but it carried the weight of 9 years of longing and loss. The next day, we went to her real parents' house. My in-laws were so relieved to see us, their worries finally put to rest. They had no idea what had really happened. They just thought we'd had a newlywed spat. In the afternoon, we went to see my parents. My mom and dad held my hands, looking me over again and again. All they kept saying was, "It's good to have you home. It's so good to have you home." That night, we didn't go back to the safe house. We went back to our own home, the place that held all our memories from before I left. Pushing open the door, everything was just as we had left it. Sunlight streamed through the clean windows, pooling on the hardwood floor. The orchid on the windowsill was in full, glorious bloom. Claire leaned against me and whispered, "Ethan, I want to replace everything in this house." I was taken aback. "Why?" Everything's still in great shape. I want to throw away all the bad memories from the past. I think our home deserved a fresh start. I looked at her and understood. I smiled and kissed her forehead. Okay, whatever you want. We'll go shopping for new furniture tomorrow. We'll make this place exactly how we want it. Because the future was finally ours. And it was going to be a long and happy one. We had 9 years of empty space to fill, and we were going to fill it together one day at a time. 09, the days that followed were peaceful and wonderfully mundane. Claire and I were like any couple moving into a new home. We spent hours at furniture stores, arguing playfully over the color of a sofa. We went to the supermarket, racing to grab items on sale. We tried new recipes, making a complete mess of the kitchen. The dark clouds that had hung over us for so long seemed to have been thrown out with the old furniture. Our home started to feel more and more like a home, filled with laughter and the smell of cooking. One day, I was on the patio, watering the orchid. Claire came up and wrapped her arms around me from behind. Honey, I have something to tell you. Yeah, I think I might be pregnant. Her voice was barely a whisper. My hand, holding the watering can, froze. I spun around, my eyes wide. What did you say? A blush crept up Claire's cheeks as she laughed at my reaction. She pulled a small pregnancy test from behind her back. It showed 2 clear, pink lines. I stared at those 2 lines, my mind completely blank. After what felt like an eternity, I finally found my voice. Is it real? Yes. I scooped her up in my arms and spun her around in circles on the patio. This is amazing. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad. I was laughing and shouting like a kid. Claire, dizzy from the spinning, playfully tapped my back. Hey, put me down. Be careful with the baby. That snapped me back to reality. I gently set her down on her feet. I knelt and pressed my ear to her still flat stomach. Let me listen. Let me listen. You're ridiculous. You can't hear anything yet, she said, stroking my hair. I looked up at her, completely serious. I heard him. I heard him say hi, Dad. The warm sun shone down on us. In that moment, I felt like the happiest man in the world. My 9 years undercover had cost me so much. I had lost time with my parents. I had lost the chance to watch my wife through her 20s. But now, fate had given me the most incredible gift in return. It gave me a new identity, a father, and it gave me a new mission, to protect my wife and our unborn child. This mission had no time limit, no end date, and I would spend the rest of my life fulfilling it. 1 year later, in the backyard of a small suburban house, a little boy who had just learned to walk was toddling unsteadily after a small ball on the grass. I sat on a bench nearby, watching him. Claire came out with a plate of sliced fruit and sat down next to me. Look at him go. He's so fast, she said with a smile. Takes after his old man, I said, puffing out my chest. The little boy got tired of the ball and came running toward us on his short, chubby legs. Dad, up. I opened my arms and lifted him into my lap. He planted a loud, wet kiss on my cheek. Claire laughed, wiping it off with a napkin. Thank you, Ethan, she said suddenly. For what? Thank you for coming back alive. And thank you for giving me a family. I looked at her, then at our son babbling in my arms. My heart felt so full it might burst. I squeezed her hand tightly. No, I said. I should be thanking you. You too. You're the ones who make me feel like this world is worth fighting for.